This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
Then we launched Primal Kitchen February 2nd of 2015, and it was kind of like a rocket ship. Like we were 0 to 50 million in 3 years. We never raised money. Mark and I owned 95% of the company at the time in which we sold it to Kraft-Heinz in 2018. And here I am.
It's eerily close to 5 years. I mean, here we are in November, and if you had a time machine back to, I think, 2018, right?
2018. My son he just turned 5 yesterday. I had him on November 6th and we signed the deal with Kraft-Heinz on November 28th. So you're really close to 5 years.
I mean, here we are, right? Happy 5-year anniversary to you. I mean, this is why I don't sing. Okay. I'm so sorry. We just lost half the viewers to the show because I tried to sing, but it's been 5 years. And I got to tell you, Morgan, like I've now been working with Kraft-Heinz in very odd job capacities for the last 3 years. And I remember around 3 years on my first listening lap, you're starting to meet people that are running different brands. I ran into Aubrey Byers, and like Aubrey, she's like, "Oh, you need to meet Morgan. You and Morgan are going to hit it off." I'm like, "Oh, Morgan, who's Morgan? Who is
Morgan?
Who's Morgan?
Who the hell is Morgan?
I don't know who this Morgan is." He's like, what do you mean you don't know Morgan? So I think it's so important for me to properly turn this over to you for your introduction to the courageous listeners here. Who are you, Morgan? Where do you live? And what do you do?
That's such a loaded question. Let's see. I live in Los Angeles in Palos Verdes, like the South Bay, we call it. So the beach community of LA, that's very un-Hollywood. And I have 3 boys under the age of 5 and a wonderful husband who's a stay-at-home dad. Thank God for that. And I am the co-founder and president of Primal Kitchen. We were acquired by Kraft-Heinz almost 5 years ago. We actually closed the deal on January 3rd of 2019. So I thought they would fire me on like January 10th of 2019. And I'm still here.
Here you are.
5 years later, still kicking, which I just like never thought I would be, but it's actually been a really fun ride. So
I think the reason Aubrey thought we'd get along is like, I mean, even the way you introduce yourself, you kind of sort of threw in at the end, a co-founder and president of Primal Kitchen. But what I like most about the conversations we've had, it's like, you take your work seriously, but you don't take yourself that seriously. It's like, do your thing. Right. And the door behind her just opened. I assumed that there was going to be a little
wind, like
child.
Anyway.
I thought there was like a little person.
A kid there. I thought there was a kid there, but there wasn't a kid there. I was like, oh shit, here we go. But no, it's just the wind.
The ghost of Morgan.
A ghost of Morgan. That is one of my like life mantras, is really just like not to take yourself too seriously.
All right. Talk to me about like Primal Kitchen and how this came to be and how you got on this rocket ship and how you met Mark and where did this come from and how did this all happen?
I'll do a really quick, like very long backstory. I was born in Chicago. I got my accounting degree from the University of Colorado. My parents were like, C's get degrees. They shipped me off to camp for 8 weeks when I was 8 years old. Then I moved to South America after college. I actually took a job as an accountant. I was very bored, I think would be the right word. And I quit my job, saved up money. I quit my job to waitress. You can imagine my parents like just paid for my out-of-state tuition at University of Colorado. And I'm like, this accounting job was fun, but like I'm going to waitress at my aunt and uncle's resort in northern Wisconsin, Coons Franklin Lodge, my favorite place in the world. I'm going to quit waitress where I made like 30 grand in one summer. And then I'm going to move to South America with like no really other plans than that. So it's supposed to be a 6-month trip. I moved there with actually Primal Kitchen's VP of marketing, Anna, who I'm sure you know. So I've known Anna, like she was employee number 1. I've known her almost my whole life. I convinced her to move to South America with me. Our 6-month trip for me turned into, Anna went home. It turned into me like for me, a 2.5-year trip. I learned how to surf, swear fluently in Spanish, just like really like lived the life. I became obsessed with surfing. I got my yoga certification in Hawaii. After that, I bought the domain name surfyogaecuador.com. I was going to like open a surf yoga resort in Ecuador and just like live the island life. And then I ended up, of all places, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is, I'm sure, where you thought this story was going to go, right? Like,
All right, hold on. First of all,
Yeah.
what URL did you acquire?
surfyogaecuador.com.
Did you try livetheislandlife.com?
I mean, I lived in Ecuador for a while, like a year probably total, surfing like every day. And then I got my yoga certification in Hawaii after that. But yeah, I wanted to like do yoga and surf retreats in South America. And
But
then I
I'm
realized
saying,
like, I'm just,
livetheislandlife.com was already taken and you never looked at that one.
no, I never looked at that one. That's a good one
Okay.
though. Wasn't never on my list, but I like that.
Do you still have this URL? Like, is this a business
No.
opportunity?
No, I don't have that URL anymore. I mean, maybe I could still get it. Someone should get it. Whoever's listening, go grab it. Start the yoga surf retreat I never did in my 20s. Yeah. So then I ended up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I met a boy at my lake house, moved to Milwaukee, worked in an advertising agency. Actually, I had my own health revelation along the journey. In Colombia, in South America, I met this girl from California. I'd never been to California. I've lived all over the world at this point in my life. I've never been to California. I'm just a Midwest girl, right? I met a girl from California and she had like told me about the Standard Process cleanse. The Standard Process is a supplement company actually headquartered in Wisconsin. They grow all their own herbs for their supplements. It's a cool company. But her friend who had cancer, the doctor that she was working with was telling her, oh, you should try these supplements and do a cleanse. So anyway, I came home, I did a cleanse, and then I just like went deep on like the health thing. So I read Michael Pollan's book, In Defense of Food, Eat Food, Not Too Much, Mostly Plants. This was when like Food Inc. was in the movie theater. And like, I was just really into this whole thing. So this kind of kicked off this sort of like 15-year N of one health experiment of my own life and just obsession of health and wellness. I was actually on the news in 2012 being interviewed about intermittent fasting before anyone was talking about intermittent fasting. I did the keto diet with Maria Emmerich, and like also in 2012, super strict, like 20 grams total net carbs. I just was really into just like experimenting all the things. So along the way, I meet this boy. I go to work for this advertising agency in Milwaukee. I manage the Frito-Lay Growth Ventures account. Then I'm like, I don't want to live in Milwaukee. Probably not going to marry this guy. Moved to California, met my now husband, and I kept that job for a little bit, but then I ran marketing for a brand called Kavita. So they were the number 2 player in the kombucha space. And I like finagled my way into this director of marketing position that I had like no business having. But I got this job as the director of marketing of Kavita. The woman who hired me there, Amanda O'Keefe, she was one of my mentors and is still one of my best friends today. She was like one of our early hires at Primal Kitchen too. She still works for us there as our EVP of growth. But yeah, I was at Kavita for a little while, and then I left, and Kavita sponsored this event called Primal Con that Mark Sisson used to put on, where all these paleo people would come to Oxnard and like pay to spend the weekend with Mark and like play ultimate frisbee and run around barefoot and eat paleo food. And I didn't need to go to the event, but I wanted to meet Mark because I knew who he was. So I went, hit it off with Mark and his wife Carrie, gave them a ride to their hotel room at the end of the night, and then I quit my job at Kavita because it was crazy. It was like a crazy place to work, and I had nothing lined up. So Adam and I, my now husband, we did like a surf trip. We rented a Juicy van. Do you know what a Juicy van is, Ryan?
No, I'm happy to report. Unless you weren't selling pants, Juicy pants.
No, a Juicy van. So it's like a van, you can rent them. I think the company still exists, but it's like camper. It's like a minivan, but they have a Yakima top carrier on top you can sleep in. So anyway, we were on this like surf trip from San Francisco to San Diego, and Mark called randomly. I hadn't talked to him in a few months. He's like, hey, I want to launch this food company. Do you think you can like come to my house in Malibu and help me with this? Let's schedule a meeting. So I started consulting for Mark for $50 an hour. This is back in like 2013. And we just were working away. He had hired another couple to come on and kind of like launch the brand, and it just wasn't working out with them. Mark and I kept growing closer. The first meeting, he was going to name the brand Primal Blueprint. And I was like, that's a terrible name. You should call it like Primal Kitchen or something. And he was like, good idea. I'll never forget. You know what he said to me? He goes, oh, this meeting was worthwhile. And I was like, yeah, you jackass. This meeting was worthwhile before I made that suggestion. Like, Mark is one of my all-time like favorite humans on the face of the earth and one of my best friends to this day. So I can tell that story. Like, we laugh about it now. But yeah, so that kind of just, I consulted, and then we kicked off. We launched Primal Kitchen February 2nd of 2015. And it was kind of like a rocket ship. Like, we were 0 to 50 million in 3 years. We never raised money. Mark and I owned 95% of the company at the time in which we sold it to Kraft-Heinz in 2018. So, and here I am.
And this concludes the Courageous Podcast. This might be the record of least amount of questions I've asked to date, which is amazing. I'm not going to like take my shoes off. But first of all, where to even begin? Here's where I'm going to start. One, if you ask me, and I think it's fair for the listener to know that you and I have now had multiple conversations over the last year. And it was like very easy. So we see eye to eye. I mutual respect, I think. I respect you. I think you respect our product too. And so I could get away saying what I'm about to say. If you would have asked me to like list the 100 jobs you thought that Morgan had out of the gate, there is zero chance that accountant is making it on that list. So like the idea of, so let's like, we don't have to go too deep on this, but were you nudged from a family member to go into that world, or you're like, it's business, it's money, just go there?
I mean, I went into college as a psych major, and then I realized how much science you had to take, and I was like, oh, I'm out. But math was always super easy for me. So I was like attracted to the business school. And then everyone was like, oh, accounting's the hardest degree in the business school. So I was like, oh, I'll just get an accounting degree. Like I almost failed econ, like a D, but I got an A+ in statistics. It was so easy for me. And I'm not, like I said, I'm kind of like a middle of the run student. I wasn't like a standout brainiac person by any means, but math was always just kind of like clicked for me. I like the like black and whiteness of math.
All right. Next question. I think a lot of people have tried to meet someone they're intrigued by. You know, like I would love to meet, Elon Musk. I mean, for lots of reasons. I've got lots of questions, good and bad.
Right.
You're just like, you'd love to meet Mark, but yet not only did you meet Mark, it sounds like you're the last one at the party and then took him and his wife. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't have a lot of skills, but connecting with people quickly is one skill I have. And I don't know why. I think I think from a young age, I've been very comfortable in a lot of like, I can hang in South America and also at the country club, or like, I don't know. I just have had a plethora of experiences in life that I feel like I was fortunate enough for my parents to kind of like, they like, were like, fly little birdie fly. Right. So I don't know. I just connecting with people is easy for me. So yeah.
But how much, I want to know, like, if you're going to give us advice, give us 3 snippets. If there's someone we want to meet, because I'm curious, like, how prepared were you? Did you find, I know it's a while back now, but like, did you like, hey, don't overthink it. Just go be yourself. Like, what is your 3 big pieces of advice for anyone that knows they have an opportunity to meet someone they want to meet? What do you give them?
Like how they get the opportunity, or what to do once they do meet them?
Oh, I'll take both of those. Yeah, I meant what to do once you.
Okay, look, I actually probably spent the night I met Mark, I probably spent more time talking to Carrie than I did talking to Mark's wife, Carrie, right? So like, because we just hit it off and she was cool. She's cool, So like, I think sometimes like it happens to me a lot. People be like, oh, we need a decision maker at Primal Kitchen. Like we'll call Mark. And it's like, Mark is not making the decisions. Like anyone with a brain can figure this out, right? Like Mark would tell you that. Like people used to think I was Mark's personal assistant. And he's like, Jesus, she's not my personal assistant. Like she's running the company, So like, I think sometimes there's like people's circle that are almost just as important as the main event in your mind, right? So like, I think like just being genuinely curious about all people and maybe not being so singularly focused on like the one person you want to meet is probably like, I wanted to meet Mark, but I also just wanted to be around the world that Mark was in. And I think sometimes that's almost more impactful than meeting the one person, right? Like just put yourself in the world those people are in versus like how many millions of people want to meet Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett, right? But like, there's other people in that network who probably work closely with all of those guys who know everything they're doing and are way more accessible and like equally as interesting. So I think that can't be discredited, I guess.
So you're saying I should spend my time trying to get Kimball Musk's attention,
exactly.
not Elon's, right? Or Bezos has a brother.
Well, you should spend your time trying to get anyone's attention. That's just kind of like desperate, right? Like, it's just like the one book I want to write in the world is like everything I wanted to know about business I learned in bed. Like, I think this is a true metaphor for me, for it's like come up always through business. Like, nobody wants to hang around with someone who's just like desperately trying to
Right.
beat them, right? Like,
Totally agree.
so I feel like, it's not all that different from dating. Like, you don't want to be a stage 5 clinger. Like, that's not cool either.
There's the quote of the podcast right there. Stage 5 clingers, beware. Last quick first question. When it came time to, like, obviously he has a light bulb moment, right? That you're like, oh, Primal Blueprint, no bueno, right? Hey, Morgan's adding value, or his, however that came to be. How recent or how soon after that did you have the conversation of maybe we should do this together, and how do we find a fair way to do that? And like, how did you go about negotiating, or did it just sort of
So
become
I didn't really negotiate. Mark was like, hey, I'll pay you as a consultant. What's your rate? I was like, $50 an hour. He's like, great. Can you help me with like marketing and whatever? Just keep track of your hours and send me your bills. Like, Mark never asked for my resume. Mark's never seen my resume to this day. And we just started consulting. Mark and I did this with a lot of employees after that too. Like, we brought on people as consultants. It's a great way for both people to test out the relationship. And then if there's like some good vibes there, you carry on and like double down on the relationship. And if there's not, you kind of can go your separate ways, right? Without like jumping all in. So the commitment phobe in me loves that advice. I think that was helpful. But I worked with Mark for $50 an hour for 2 years before finally he was like, it's not working out with this other couple. I thought they were gonna be able to do more. Like, can you step in? And then he offered me a salary, right? And then it just like organically evolved. Then Mark's just like, well, you're the president of the company. And I'm like, well, listen, presidents of the company don't make what you're paying me now, right? So like that was a conversation we had like a year in, and then, it just kind of went from there.
Well, what I love about it is, we see a lot of companies, and from a leadership standpoint, like, you kind of don't have time to dilly-dally. Like, what sounds great about the relationship is you wasted no time on keeping it real with each other, right? And like, you can have that sort of radical transparency and tell it like it is and the realness. And then shout out to Anna. What's up, Anna? Hopefully we'll now know if she's heard to this part of the podcast. But Anna might have been the first person I spoke to from the brand. And I had done something with with Carlos, your now CEO. He had me come on one of back then I think it was called Carlos Conversations Over Coffee.
Coffee with Carlos. I was on one of those too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so him and I did one, and he was very gracious, and they bought Return on Courage for everybody that came to the session. Anna came to the session, and then she like reached out to me, which was so cool of her, and I could see how real she was. And my take on it, Morgan, early was like, oh, wait a minute, this company is only like everyone's related or best friends, or like the Kevin Bacon game was not a lot of rings. It was like first degree. Like, did you just hire like all of your best friends that you had trust with, and off you went?
Yeah. I mean, I've known Anna forever. She like hated her job. She was working at the University of Minnesota in communications, and she had previously been at a lawnmower company called Toro. But I knew she was a hard worker, and like, I liked her and I could get along with her, and it was great. So she was the employee number 1 in marketing, and I just like let her run with it. And then I hired Amanda, who had hired me at Kavita, and I knew she was super strategic and really smart. And I hired Rick, who had hired me. I like consulted for a fitness company in between Kavita and Primal, and Rick was the COO there. And Rick was like, Rick and I really ran Primal Kitchen on a board level and like just on a strategic level. We couldn't have done it without Rick, but he was, one of 2 people who had hired me in my past life, who I then hired to come over to Primal. But then, Anna's best friend from college, Alex, who I've known since we were all in college, she runs Amazon for us. My best friend in LA manages our Target account. One of my best friends from high school I played soccer with manages natural sales for us. It was very much like a family affair for sure. It still is. Everyone's still here. Like, it's so rare, but we're 5 years post acquisition, and like my entire team's still here. It's unheard of, but that's where we're at.
Well, it's cool. And again, there's trust. I mean, it comes down to that. Like, again, from a leadership standpoint, you trust all of them because you know all of them, and you've built those relationships. And so you don't have to watch everyone because you already know who they are. Not that you should ever go into a relationship anyway, be like, who do I need to watch? But because the relationships are real, now it is cool to hear. Here we are 5 years after acquisition, and the squad is still intact and they're still united doing what they do. So give me like tail the tape on the business today. You know, I know you guys were acquired. It sounds like you were expected to generate what, like 50 million back in 19 for I had read somewhere that's what they thought you would generate for them in back in 19. I don't know if you
We
just
actually
saw that number.
we ended the year of 18 at 50 million. The year we were acquired, so we were 50 million. And then we've like, tripled the business since then. It's a little more than tripled the business since then. So yeah, we've continued to grow within the structure of Kraft-Heinz. They've really like left us alone and let us do our thing, but provided a lot of support where like, honestly, like most of the support I would say comes like almost at the founder level, like just legal support, quality support, like financing support. I mean, we funded the business with a line of credit that Mark had a personal guarantee on. At one point, the line of credit was up to $9 million. Now, when we need funding to grow the business, it's like, Mark, we don't need to deal with the bank, right? Like we just talk to Kraft-Heinz and, they can help us finance the growth of the business. So they've really taken a lot of the like pain points of being an entrepreneur away from us and let us continue to do it. And I think it's interesting, like a lot of people run their businesses for 10 years before they sell, right? Like we sold literally like 3.5 years after we launched. So I feel like also maybe part of the reason the team's still so engaged and still here, it's like we're still so early in our journey, right? Like there is still so much left to do that it still feels just really like meaningful.
Who found you? Like who actually found you guys?
What do you
Or
mean?
did you seek out Kraft-Heinz, or did they like
No, Mark and I, like, we always knew we wanted to sell the company. Mark was like very clear about that from day one. He told me when we launched the business in 2015, he's like, if we could just sell this one day for $30 million, I would be happy. That's what he told me. And then the next year, he's like, I think if we could sell it for 100 million, I'd be happy. And then the next year, I was like 200. And then finally, I was like, all right, you're smoking your own crack, man. You got to like tone it down a level here, right? But yeah, so we always knew we wanted to sell the business. Food margins are really low. There's not like Kraft was like incredibly impressed with us at doing 2 million of EBITDA on $50 million sales. Like most people are losing money in the food space. And certainly we would have been in like the inflationary year we had last year, for instance. Just, yeah, it's a tough business to like cash flow and make money in unless you are planning on exiting and having like a bigger partner who can help you with scale.
I mean, my gut from your energy is like, wow, how amazing has this adventure been? What a ride. And like I don't sense like with some entrepreneurs, we always talk about on the show that fear and courage are kin, and you can't get to the courageous move without channeling it through fear. And there's somewhere where there's anxiety and it holds us up and we feel stuck or we're scared or we're spinning. But when I hear your story, I feel really good energy about like this adventure you've been on. It have like when you think about the hardest parts, where has the fear been? And overall, as you're thinking about that, am I accurate on that? That it's been like wow, and like just stay focused on the ride and enjoy the ride because I'm feeling that too from you.
Oh yeah. I mean, we had so much fun growing Primal Kitchen. Like Mark and I mean, we had an absolute blast. Like it was super just mostly fun and mostly like champagne problems. Like we were operating like just in time inventory by accident the entire first year we ran the business. I mean, there were like fearful moments. And I think when you're so like, as a founder of a business, your personal identity can become like so entwined in your work, right? So like, certainly I was like way more I've become less like emotionally attached to Primal Kitchen, but certainly in the beginning there were some scary times and whatnot. But yeah, overall, like our journey was just really fun. I mean, Mark and I were like, if it's not fun, what's the point? We're out. We always said we had a strict no assholes policy. Like we loved everyone we worked with. And we just made a good team. We had a really good team. Like, so it was fun to work together. And even just the male, female, I was 34 when we sold Primal Kitchen. So I was like probably 30 when I met Mark. Like And, Mark's going to be 70 or is just turned 70. We had a fun dynamic. Like we just had a blast. We had an absolute blast. I mean, we'd meet up at I'd drive to Malibu, meet Mark for lunch, surf on my way home in Malibu, and then finish my meetings at home in the afternoon. And he was Mark is not a micromanager. I'm not a micromanager. I'm very direct with feedback, in the moment, but I'm very informal, very casual, probably bordering on unprofessional. Definitely. I'm not buttoned up. I don't know how to make a PowerPoint presentation. I'm just more of a get shit done kind of a gal. So we just ran the business that way, and it was fun. It was really fun. Yeah. But we definitely had our moments, right? There's no doubt.
Feels like a book or a movie.
Yeah. When we sold the company, I actually gave Mark I had written down a play-by-play of kind of all the drama that happened month by month. And I gave him a Microsoft Word document. I was like, here you go for the Primal Kitchen book. Here you have it. So we have it in writing, but I don't think he'll ever write it. Maybe I'll have to. Maybe that can be everything I needed to know about business I learned in bed, the Primal Kitchen story. That's what
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, in the spirit of books, when I was, did my little leadership lap and listening lap and interviewed people for Turn on Courage, the joke was always on me. There was always some sage master that I needed to hear a message from. And to me, writing a book is a rite of passage. And one of the big ones that came out for me was it takes you 40 years to figure out who you are and the next 40 to be that person. And here I am at 39 when I was writing my book and coming out the other side. I'm like, oh, okay. And so for me, there was things that were buried that I needed to bring back to the surface and address head on. So here you are. I mean, I think we've done just fine. You live in LA. I believe if I'm doing the math right here, right, we're 39. When's the big
40 in April.
birthday? What's
April? Big
right.
birthday in April.
Well, obviously the first question has to be what's on the docket?
I'm going to do a girls surf trip for my 40th. Our spring break is actually over my 40th birthday. So I don't know. We're going to go somewhere with the fam. I haven't decided yet. Probably Mexico. It's just easy to get there with the kids. But then, yeah, a bunch of girls are going on a surf trip for my 40th. So I'm super excited about that.
I mean, it sounds like Primal Kitchen will be closed that week.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that. It's already 2 employees who are coming. And I was like, oh, I think I should invite a third. So yeah, there will be some of us will be there for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I don't mean to call anybody out, but right. I mean, all right. So, but in the spirit of as you think about, the first 40 years, what a ride. And then you think about just the intentionality of what the next 40 might look like. And you have a job to do and you got how old are the kids?
1, 3, and 5.
I mean, you're in it.
We're in it.
So maybe it's not a fair question, but I got to ask, what's the next 40 look like?
I mean, the next 40 is way too big of a question. I mean, you're talking to a girl, we move every 2 years, so 40, every 40 years just feels like I can't even bite that off. That's when Kraft-Heinz asks us for a 5-year projection. And we're like, listen, we're working on 1 year, getting our 1 year projection down. I'm 2 in the moment, but I don't know. I think I've been thinking a lot about my husband is I say the king of the small things and I'm the queen of the big things, but we all know the small things are the things that really matter, right? So I think I have been thinking about just what small moments do I want to create in my life that are really the big moments, and that's what I'm putting my energy into for 2024 anyway. So those are things like snowball fights, surfing with my kids, toddler skiing, yard sales, just when your skis go everywhere and your toddlers are just flying down the little magic mountain carpet ride thing at the ski resort, things like that are just what I want to be being able to have chocolate chip pancakes without me trying to manage the sugar intake for the whole day, trying to just really be in the moment of the little magical things that are happening in the day-to-day life that I think sometimes when you're a super driven triple type A, as my therapist would say, you can just be so focused on these big goals that you just really lose sight of what really matters, whereas Adam wakes up every day and he puts music on every morning. He decorate the house for Halloween. He's just really good at setting the tone. And I feel like I need to just like learn more from that. So that's what I've been thinking about a lot lately.
I love that. I first of all, that king of the small things and queen of
Queen
the
of the
big
big thing.
things sure sounds like if we had a time machine that could go back 2 weeks, the best Halloween costume I've ever heard, right? That's there's an idea for the future. But the idea of magic, the magic of the moments, that's how you make memories, really, those little moments is pretty cool. And as my kids get older, they're now 8 and 10. I, I'd be lying if I didn't say like I know how much I travel, and I haven't done the math because I'm afraid to know the answer, but I've started to like ask myself how many weekends do we have left before my son goes to college. I mean, we're
Yeah.
halfway there, but I'm already recognizing like, oh, this is real. Like I have to be really careful now on making
Yeah.
sure I'm present and available. And maybe this is useful or helpful. There's a little formula I have on being a parent. For me, it's dad. For you, obviously, be mom. But it's attention plus belief equals dad. And to me, I love like, okay, I need to be present, and then I need to not like be there but unavailable on my phone. It's like attention,
Yeah.
and then that belief component, which is patience too, equals dad. And I try to live that for me. And it's cool to hear you sort of recognize like you've got this absurd rocket ship that comes with the job, but then there's another job at home, right?
Yeah.
And how do you make sure you're available for that?
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that. But then there are still the big things, right, that are ruminating in the background. Like we're talking about building a house, and I want to write a romance novel, and I want to be a founder again. So there's things, but I'm trying to not like, let those big things kind of like really carry me away from the present moment because they can.
I would love to see the Morgan bingo card. What's on like if there was like it might be bucket list really more than bingo card. Like, do you have a bucket list of stuff you haven't gotten to yet?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm a travel junkie, right? Like I lived out of the country for a while, studied abroad in Australia. I've done like backpacking trips in Costa Rica. I've lived, whatever, all over South America. So I really want to like travel with the kids. Like I definitely see, I'm like, Adam, what if we like lived in LA for a year and then we traveled for a year and then we lived in LA for a year and we traveled for a year? Like I could do that with the kids for sure. But we spent every summer in northern Wisconsin. My grandpa bought this like family compound, these like rustic 6 cabins on this really nice lake in northern Wisconsin. So we go there for like 8 weeks every summer, and that's like my happy place in the world. So I want to continue doing that with the boys. I think that's just like a nice balance to the Los Angeles lifestyle, to get up into the woods where it's just like water ski shows and, supper clubs and just normal Midwest summer things.
All right, look, this is nice nostalgia ideas, but this is the Courageous podcast. So let's get back.
Yeah. Okay, you
If
want me to get big?
if you really think about, I mean, do you realize how courageous the ride has been, or do you not? Is that like doesn't compute because you've just been in it?
Doesn't compute. I have major imposter syndrome though. Like someone was just asking me, I was with like Michael Brandt, who founded Ketone IQ HVNM, like if anybody's listening, HVMN. But anyway, and he was like asking me like, well, what, like, how are you so successful? And I'm like, dude, I wasn't like, if you ask my high school friends, like they would never predict that I would have been the one to have like this, success, right? Like success can be determined a lot of ways. I have like very intrinsically rewarded success. Like Chicago Tribune, Primal Kitchen sells to Kraft-Heinz. This is like, one version of success that's very, I don't know, externally recognized, right? So I don't know. I suffer from like severe imposter syndrome. So no, I don't think I look back and I'm like, oh, I was so courageous. Like it just doesn't feel like that.
Right, right. Just going over to Ecuador and maybe starting a surf brand or whatever. You're right.
No, it just doesn't. Just feels like normal. I think if you knew me though, you would just be like, oh yeah, she would do that. Or like, I don't know.
I
Yeah.
know, but when people say things like, well, that's Morgan, that's just Morgan,
Yeah.
what they're saying is that's not them. And 95% of people wouldn't like, they're not even getting on the plane, right? Who goes to school and then 11 days after they graduate, after being an accountant, I know it's longer than that.
Yeah.
And to me, there's something on the way on your value system is what drove you. And most people think it, they might feel it. It doesn't mean they do it. And you have a track record of like you said, getting shit done, and your style might be informal, but the doing is what you've been doing. And I commend that. So look, maybe you don't see yourself, I mean, the label is co-founder, right, and president, but from my lens, it's still leader. And by the way, how cool is it to meet a female co-founder who has been bullish on not just like, I'm just going to do it and make money. Like, you actually went into a space that you believe in, found somebody else who also, like, sort of like your yin to your yang,
Yeah.
and didn't lose yourself along the way. I think that's a great leadership story. When you think about your leadership style, I know you've said you're informal, you keep it real, but for anyone listening that maybe they want to get their brand acquired, or maybe they're just starting on their entrepreneurial path, give me like the hero advice you would give them.
I think there's so many ways I could go with this, but I would say number one, like, you got to be scrappy. I meet so many founders who are like, oh, we're going to launch and then we're going to like raise money and we're going to spend all this money and all this. Like, they spend like this money on branding. And it's like, I'm like, you haven't even sold $1 yet. And you've spent like $200,000 on your brand. Like, literally, like, these stories exist. And I'm just like, no, you got to go on like Canva or 99 logos or 99 designs or whatever and have your, like, you got to be scrappy and prove your product before you go invest a ton of money, because otherwise you're just caught in this hamster wheel of like, we're raising money and then we're raising more money. And then my whole job is just raising money. And then nobody wants to invest any more money and we go bankrupt like that. We see that a lot. So I would say being scrappy is like real top of mind for me. You think your margin's going to get better, and then there's like an avian flu and the egg prices go up, or California raises the minimum wage and your tolling fee goes up, or inflation nation happens like last year and suddenly everything costs 20% more, right? Like, those things are real. So I see so many founders like bank on this like scale margin thing that never comes true. We like totally designed the product we wanted with our mayonnaise. We were like, what's the margin that we need to make at the price it is today to run one run of this stuff at 50% margins? And then we had a $9.99 jar of mayonnaise. And we're like, people either buy this and we have a business, or they don't and we don't have a business. But we're not going to like go sell the product for $5 because we think that's what the market can support, and we'll figure out the margins later. Like, that was just never how we wanted to do business. So I would say on leadership style, I think like giving direct feedback is good. I prefer like direct feedback in an informal, like in time setting, and not like in a quarterly PowerPoint. So I'm actually terrible at giving feedback, I would say, if formally, but I'm like, I feel like my team knows where they stand. Like, I'm pretty clear in the moment of where I'm at. I think I had a lot of insecurity when we were acquired. Like, I don't know how to like read data. I don't know how to create a PowerPoint presentation. Anyone who's in corporate America knows like this is literally like almost all you do in corporate America is create PowerPoint presentations. I remember being on with my boss at Kraft-Heinz, who was like a president at Kraft-Heinz, who was very, high up executive, and trying to present a PowerPoint presentation to him. And I was like, Steve, how do I like make this thing like full screen? And he's like, the projector button in the lower right-hand corner. Like, I didn't even know how to put the PowerPoint into full screen mode. Okay. So I had a lot of insecurity, like just around like, shoot, I need to become more corporate. Like, I need to learn how to do analytics. And Steve was like, no, like, absolutely not. He's like, I think you need to like, I hug everyone. I swear in meetings. He's like, you do you. Like, you need to just keep being you. And so that was just like super helpful. Like, I just feel so fortunate. Like, I had so many people who just really like supported me doing me. And that allowed just me to show up authentically. And I think that like leads into the trust you have with your employees, right? And then people all show up authentically. Like, if you want to get someone to open up, like, you just open up and they open up, right? So if you're open and authentic, people are going to be open and authentic back with you. And I think that is where like the magic happens in all of life, and it translates to the work world too. So I don't know. I think those are just some like verbal diarrhea of some little tips that I used with my team.
I couldn't agree more that we're mirrors.
Yeah.
They give, and this is where you wish people had more awareness. And you're like, I know.
I've been in therapy for 15 years. Like, so I think that self-awareness is important, right? Like,
I know, but when people don't go to, and most people unfortunately don't go to therapy or can't afford it or think they don't need it, and they bury it, or they probably they don't want to address. They just don't want to address whatever they need to address. And I mean, I'm pretty confident, just to build off what you said, is like, yeah, you are what you speak. Like if you speak to yourself cruelly, you're going to be cruel. Like if you speak to others kind, you're going to be kind. If you give yourself grace or give other people grace, they're going to give grace back.
Yeah.
If you speak, to me, it's if you speak with confidence, it's going to give other people confidence. If you have good energy, you're going to get that back. And so, to me, we're just mirrors. And I think when people let fear win, and they have anxiety on a project and they're not aware, they're throwing that energy and that shit onto somebody else. They don't even realize it because they're just so afraid that they're going to fail or not look good. Or so I like your style because I'm informal as well. And I've dropped an F-bomb here or there on the show, I'm sure, from time to time as well. We're not going to figure out your next 40 years, but let's talk about when you have success at a large level early, at least financial, right? And you have an exit. And I know you said the memories, it's like some of these smaller moments you want, but what does what does generate joy for you? Like if you were going to be like, okay, from a bit, like you said, you want to be an entrepreneur again, you want to launch something again. Well, how does that happen when you're running Primal Kitchen? And what's the thought there?
Well, I think like it doesn't happen when I'm running Primal Kitchen, right? Like I think that might be my like next thing. But I have had 3 babies, like pretty much all since I've been at Kraft-Heinz. And it's nice to have a corporate job when you're having babies, right? Like to have maternity leave. I can't imagine be like hustling, starting a business and having a newborn. Like just to be able to take the space to have maternity leave is like really been a nice value there, and to have a team and resources and not the stress of like the whole financial thing hanging on your shoulders in this phase of life has just I'm super thankful for that. So I'm happy kind of there, but I think I loved the process of selling the business. Like I kind of think I didn't, maybe you asked this earlier and I don't know, we got distracted, but we actually like went out. Mark knew he wanted to sell the company. So when people back then would say like, oh, you need to be 30 million and then you can go put your company for sale. And then it was like, oh, you need to be 50. So we were like, okay, we're coming up on 50 million. Like let's hire a banker, lead a formal process and go sell the business. And so we were very like intentional about that. It wasn't like, oh, Mark and I are just ho-hum in our little Malibu office. And like someone came along and offered to pay us for $200 million. Like, no, I interviewed, we did this thing called a bake-off. I didn't realize this whole world exists. Maybe a lot of people listening already know this, but I didn't. It's like when you want to sell your company, there's just like very clear steps you take. You like hire an investment banker. You pick that investment banker through this process called a bake-off. Then you start your process. Like it's very much called a process. And there's like certain steps along the way. You open your data room, you have your meetings. There's like a date when like informal bids are due. And then you do management presentations where like all these big people fly out and you do like an 8-hour meeting with them. I was 32 weeks pregnant when we did our management presentation. So there was a lot of like intentionality behind it, but I loved growing and selling Primal Kitchen. So just like, maybe I'm an adrenaline junkie. I don't know what it is, but the process of like, that's just like so fun. I mean, what could be more fun than like going out and bidding your business and pitching your business? The whole thing was just fun. So I would love to just like do that again,
When you were in it, did you know, or was it when it was done, it's like, oh my gosh, how much fun was that? Because obviously early on, you're a $50 an hour consultant, right? And then you're not, and then you're growing.
I mean, what do you mean when I was in it? Did I know it was fun? Like before we decided to sell, or what do you mean?
I'm saying that sort of, wow, I really loved the part of selling it. Like when you were in that moment of selling it, did you know instantly that you had the joy, or was it until after that you're like, wow, that was so much fun?
Oh, when like the check clears the bank and you're like, oh, I really like that.
Let's do that again.
Let's do that again. Should we do that again? No, the process was fun too. I liked the whole thing.
Fair question, right? All right. In the spirit of courage, give me the biggest fear you have right now?
Death.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because you got little ones still, or You don't know
I've
what comes
always
next,
been afraid of death, Ryan, like always. I don't know. I'm afraid of my loved ones dying. I'm afraid of my kids dying. I'm afraid of dying. This is like a thing I think about. I don't know. Mom anxiety, like postpartum. I feel like when you have little newborns, I think it's like very normal. Nobody talks about it, to constantly be thinking about, oh my God, what if my kid dies, right? Like it's just like an anxiety, a mom anxiety. It's probably hormonal, like everything else mom related. But yeah, death definitely probably my biggest fear. Yeah.
I don't have the data in front of me, but I imagine money, death, and public speaking are probably 3 of the top 5, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, interesting to say. I will need another hour. I'll just say that on death. But it's easy to say this right now. I'm very at peace with what I've done. I hope I don't go tomorrow. And for all I think some people in this house still need me, but I'm also I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish. I never thought I would do anything like this. So I am at peace. There's joy. I always pull the Berman string. I say courage is regret insurance, right? And
Yeah.
so, if you would have stayed an accountant, it would be very interesting to see what life you would never know about all the things you had missed out on. But from my lens, it's, again, super cool to meet you. Awesome to watch the rocket ship that you are. I think you're very inspiring to a lot of people. And I think you are, just by keeping it real and staying authentic, is the type of leader that a lot of people want to be. And even more than that, I think a lot of people want to work for and work with. So thank you. Keep it rolling. Glad we met. You're just up the street. Sure, I'll see you soon. And thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, I love it. Thanks for having me, Ryan. So fun.
See you, Morgan. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.